2020 just might be the year that remakes for video games seem to be hitting its high point, as some of us fans just like to live out some of our past games and just see it on the bigger screens and newer consoles, just to relive out some of our past memories, just to enjoy them again and just share them along with some of our dearest friends that have never played the games before. Trials of Mana, which came out for the PS4, Nintendo Switch, and PC, is another one of those titles from the legendary Mana series from developer Square Enix, which they had already made Secret of Mana, the first game, a remake as well. They figured maybe let's make Trials of Mana a sequel, just to keep the nostalgia train going and also allowing new players to experience the game for the first time as well. And seeing Perry here at AWOI Gaming, where we review games in a way that they might be influential to the gaming community, also developers, and just spreading overall positivity towards the world as we're striving to get more in this world. It's also my first time playing the game, so I am not carrying any kind of nostalgic feels toward the game going forward in this review, and I'm just going to make sure I say that anytime a remake comes out. That way I can see with a fresh pair of eyes, and if I do have it, I'll make sure to keep that as well. But let's get back into Trials of Mana. Up first, graphics. The graphics captures a cartoonish 3D feel look that makes the world feel loving and endearing and cheerful at times, as you can see all the bright colors that happen amongst the world, and it just feels like it captures the world of Mana. If you were to look at the previous Mana games and just go like, oh, it actually captures that Super Nintendo vibes as which it was originally released for. It seems like Square was able to know what it was going for and mesh it into a 3D format. As in terms of actual environments themselves, they all have a different unique feel to it, and you can see it by the way each creature looks different and how it overall expresses what you're going to be facing the entire time when you're in combat phases. So when you go to a spooky area, you can most definitely experience spooky, vampire, ghostly monsters in that area. Square definitely uses bright colors to bring forth Trials of Mana, and I'm glad that it makes it so appealing, which made me appreciate that they used the original source material just to make the game look appealing on the 3D platform, because sometimes you're not really sure if you can go for it when you come from a 2D to 3D experience, but they were able to do that with no problems whatsoever. Although the graphics can look cartoonish, it makes it feel loving and adores the overall nostalgic feel that Trials of Mana brings forth in this game. There are some problems amongst its environments, and you can tell with the NPCs. Every shopkeeper that you visit seems to be the same character model, along with different NPCs that are in that town as well. That feels slightly cheap, because for it to be a remake, it should be from a ground up experience. Everyone feels different and unique outside of just the main characters that you play as. And to see the same dancing model to every store that you get to, regardless if it's an armor shop or a weapon shop, you will see the same person dancing. It just feels like it was rushed, and they didn't really put any thought process behind this beloved game that everyone seems to enjoy. And going forward, I hope Square learns from this and actually puts more time into the more remakes that they make. They were able to do it with Final Fantasy VII. They should be able to do it with something like Trials of Mana or any new Mana game coming out, or any remake that they have. Not to go the cheap route and just using the same NPC for every character model, because at times I felt like it really pulled me out to not fully enjoy the environments in the new areas and locations that I was visiting, because I knew I would see the same shopkeep the entire time. As far as graphics goes, the graphics really stagger when you're doing a special move, or like when you're delivering that final blow during an enemy. It stops for a split second and you can see it. It's especially noticeable on the Nintendo Switch, which is the version I played, and I normally experience this playing docked. Handheld mode, I could not really tell any frame rate drops whatsoever, but it felt smoother and better when I was playing in handheld mode. And just the option to be able to play it on the go is always a plus for any type of JRPG. I know this game is also for the PC and also PS4, so I'm pretty sure that those frame rates are different, and like you probably won't see them if you're playing on the PC version at all. It's just a matter of how you like your graphics, and it's only for a split second, as when you're playing docked in the Nintendo Switch version, it tries to catch up to that 60 frames per second. It just to keep at it. It just to barely push it. You can just see it drop from here and there, but it's not noticeable to like not want to play the game whatsoever. Trials of Mana is your create your own kind of gameplay kind of game, and what I mean by that is that there are 6 characters that you get to choose from that has their own play style, and you get to pick between the 6 and to make up your own 3 to be able to play however you want. So for example, Duran is your strong broody person, so he's very attack heavy. Angela is your go-to magician that specializes in light and dark magic, so that's helpful if you just want to be able to be elemental heavy against all the monsters you face. And then you have someone like Kevin, who is just an all-around fighting monk that can focus on healing for himself or also just putting out extra damage. You can really play this game however you want in terms of creating your own character. There's no wrong way to go about it, as after you beat the main story, you're more than likely going to pick the other 3 main characters and then play with them and then start filling out how you want your team to be. In terms of controls, when it comes to the combat for Trials of Mana, it's simply easy. All you do really is mesh up for light attacks or heavy attacks and mix them together and do combos as long with doing special moves. It's cool that you're able to pull off special moves as long as you have the CS gauge up to the certain percentage that needs to be to do said special move. So to do the crosscut, you need at least 100. To do anything extra, it costs around 200, and then so forth. As long as you have the correct amount, it's not a problem whatsoever. I really hope going forward that more JRPGs make sure that they emphasize that shortcuts are available, because going through a D-pad just to be able to get to the next item or menu or spell that you're trying to go on screen can really slow down the process of the game, and it also can appear jarring. So I hope Square continues with that overall process of making switching and being fluid in that sense to continue to grow into making these remakes. You can actually switch between the 3 characters by a simple button of the right trigger on the side, and it just switches to the next character. You can do this in battle or even outside of battle, just to move the story forward or just fight as well. You can also have shortcuts to get to the special moves and also the spells that you gain while leveling up. Each character has depth when it comes to combat as well, meaning that they get to go what's called class changing, in which they either have a light and dark path that they can take along their journey. And that's really up to you as a player, and I like that the choice is there because each side has their own pills and their own strategies and their own abilities. So once you pick that path, that's the path you can go. And if you don't like that path, as long as you have the correct items, you can actually reset your class to go forth to make the other class that you wanted to go instead. You'll endure 2 class changes, one at level 18 and one at level 38, as long as you have the correct seeds to be able to change into your class 3 changes. These are the strategic elements behind this JRPG, and I really think it's fascinating because you get to pick 3, and it's like a way of defining how you want to play it. If you want to cover your weaknesses, you'll go down a light path or you'll go down the dark path for the coverage. I wish that more games would continue to do this. It reminds me of Octopath Traveler, that in the sense that each person was assigned their own job and you were able to make it however you want. This is the same way in Trials of Mana, as you are getting the class and picking if you want to go light or dark, and for that coverage that you need in order to beat the game. Also, when you level up, you gain points that go towards your training, which you can then optimize what elements or what abilities that you want to go with your character. It creates more depth to the characters and makes them feel like their own playstyle, which you create on yourself. So for Duran, you might want to give him his strength. For Charlotte, you might want to give her some healing items. It's just a matter of however you want to play. You don't have to play that way, and the options are there. It just adds more coverage overall, but also when you learn abilities through the training points, some of them can go across everyone and not just for said character. Some of them are just locked to characters, and others are not. It just adds more depth, and we all like depth. It's just like if you want that chili cheese dog with some jalapenos, you got the option to do so. But the combat's biggest problem is the camera. There's been several times like where you can lock onto an enemy and destroy it and not know where the next enemy is, and they could be across the screen, or at times it actually rotates in a way that can be kind of uncomfortable and seem quick and just kind of slow, because if the monster is out in different directions and your other party members are fighting them because they are AI, it kind of makes you hard to know where he is. So you would literally defeat a monster and then have to rotate the camera around instead of it being quick and fluid in that sense. And I wish that they will work on that going forward with any other remakes that they go towards, because that's the only thing that slows down in terms of combat at times. Trials of Mana also is a cut-dry, linear 20-plus hour experience of a JRPG, but it's also a dungeon crawler game. This makes up for the fact that there is no side quest. So most of your time you're going to be in the dungeons trying to find every treasure chest, leveling up, grinding to face the bosses within the dungeon to overcome the obstacles at hand. And once you do that, it feels like that's the entire story bait. It's just rinse and repeat the entire time through. I wish that they added side quests to the remake, because without the side quest, it is really point A, point B, fight boss, repeat the entire time through. And anytime that you're actually in the cities, there's no real point in interacting with any of the townspeople, because they don't offer side quests. They're just there. You can talk to them if you feel like, but you're not going to get anything in return unless the story asks for you to talk to people within the town. But that's as far as it goes. There's no explore this different area to go forth. Yes, there is amounts of maps to go forth just to explore on your own, but in terms of like getting a reward as a normal JRPG would do, or an RPG does, there's no actually learning about the characters that are in the town. It's just a placeholder to get the story rolling so you can go to the dungeon at hand and not really caring about the townspeople or people that are in the town. I just wish that if they do decide to remake another Mana game, that they add more instead of just being straight copy paste in this sense, to make it more enjoyable. Up next, voice acting.
My body is just aging slower than most people's do. That's all. Got it? Now tell me how to get to Astoria, or else.
Okay, fine. Meet me outside on the second floor balcony tonight. I know a secret that might help.
The English voice acting for Trials of Mana was so over the top that it felt super cheesy and bad to me, that it actually pulled me out of the game. I don't know if it's because they were trying to deliver the lines a certain way, but it just didn't feel genuine, and it made me not like the overall experience on the later half of the game. During my review session, I actually did switch over to the Japanese version to see how it felt, and it felt way more at home for what the characters should sound like. Gamers, you have the right to pick however you want to play your games. Just feel let you know that some of it might, if you choose the English, it's cheesy, and the Japanese version feels more at home. Also for fans, which is cool, is that in terms of music, that it also gives you the options of playing the remake soundtrack and the original soundtrack. And from what I can tell, because I don't have that pinch of ear, the original and the remake sound almost similar, but the original is just for those fan faves that love the series that will probably turn to that. And it's really simple in the options, and you can change it back and forth however you want. Just the fact that they gave you the option of hearing the original soundtrack is cool. I wish that more games did that, like Final Fantasy VII. Of course, the soundtrack was in there the entire time, but hearing it in its original keys and not updated is always cool and fascinating, and makes you really appreciate for everything that they did. And the music is so soothing and beautiful within Trials of Mana that I liked hearing it in both sides and it really made me keep playing more of it. And finally, the story of Trials of Mana, which is a simple story of save the world from the evils at hand, and you are trying to save the Mana Goddess, and you do this with your 3 main characters as they are enduring their own journey as well to become stronger or save their loved ones, or just in an unfortunate revenge story. It's really cool because those characters intertwine with each other and they become your party based off how you picked at the very beginning of the game. What's sad about this is that you do see the other characters along your journey, and it makes you wonder how their story would play out. This allows for replayability, so you can experience this from their angle as well, just as certain towns or events pertain to those characters, and they hit harder than what you had picked in your original party. This is cool because it allows for replayability, but I wish that they went the Octopath Traveler route with this, of allowing you to just go ahead and have all 6 characters so you can endure everyone's story at the same time. That way it doesn't count for having to replay the game 5 more times and to claiming that each person was a hero as you experience their story at first. And seeing how you are going through the same map every single time through those playthroughs, regardless of what teams you make, it just feels like they could have done that better in sense of making some new maps, not just changing how the ending is for a couple of the characters, that everything feels unique and different. But seeing how they are the exact same maps, they should have just allowed you to have the option to go ahead and pick every character, that way you can experience it all at the same time. It does, like I said, allows for you to play the game over just to see, what happened through Reese's lens, and to see how it would play out, because she is the main character this time. It's understandable. It just feels like it's cheap because it makes you feel like you're playing through this game several times. Also, just a little cool fact is that if you have to play this game demo-wise, you can actually transfer things over, and it's always cool when games allow you to play the demo first and anything you play carries over, which made me want to continue to play the story because I played the demo and it made me excited to play more of the game. Now, if you're not familiar with we review things here at AWOI Gaming, we use what I like to call is an influential scale, where we go from not influential, potential, influential, and very influential. And I have to say that Trials of Mana, I've really gone back and forth with this review in terms of its actual scale, because at times I really did like this game, and times I felt like I could have done without it. So in terms of its scale overall, what it can mean towards overall gaming experience and being influential, in terms of it being a remake from this nostalgic thing that I know that some of my friends encouraged me to play, I have to say that this game has potential to be influential over the gaming industry because of its ability to recapture those atmosphere views that you can see from this 2D platform. It captures the overall coloring. The combat is fun, but that over idea of having to play the game 5 more times just to be able to experience this. Granted, you can get it by their companion, but the notion is that for a PlayStation owner, you would have to play one time through for each player to get the trophy, and that's just tedious. And granted, New Game Plus allows you to excel and go through the bosses faster, but seeing how you're going to be seeing the same levels, you're probably going to skip over the same cutscenes that you've seen already until you get to a certain point where it just pertains to that character. It just feels like a slow fest, and it can just be done better in terms of being able to see the story by having every character locked at first. But overall, it can be fun overall. Then voice acting can take you out of it, like I said, but it's overall a good experience one time through. And if you're a long-time Mana fan and you were waiting to play this game, this is truly for you. You are a true diehard fan. You deserve to play this game. It is really for you. And for newcomers, they can experience and enjoy it as well. It's just a matter of it can be a hit or miss in terms of the overall experience, and if they will come back to play the game with this replayability. Also, the addition of the epilogue scene is cool because it adds another scene that original players didn't have at first, and to experience that and to see the difficulty and what it was like is very challenging. And once you overcome it, New Game Plus opens and it allows you to bust through it even faster. And if you like this, please hit the like button, please hit the subscribe button, or hit that little bell so you know when I go live, and hit the comment section below and give me your thoughts about Trials of Mana and see if I missed anything, or your overall experience, if it's your first time through or it's your 50th time through. It's always fun to hear your guys' opinions on how it influenced you and what you can see from the Mana season going forward, because I'm pretty sure you guys just want a new game at this point, right? Anyways, this is Perry at AWOI Gaming. You guys be safe and continue to have fun with your games, as there are more to come, and you all have a good one.